Hello and welcome back to the Preppy podcast. Thank you all so much for being here. Today, as always, I have a really fun episode. I'm talking with Kim of Lolley Designs. She creates beautiful clothing for women. I particularly love the high collars, the puff sleeves, the ruffles. It's all just so feminine and so beautiful. So I'm so excited to share how she went from being a nurse for many years into following her dream of being a fashion designer. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. All right. So why don't you first let everyone know your name, what you do, and where you live?
Well, I'm Kim Lolley, and I'm from northern Louisiana. I grew up here. This is my hometown. I've always lived here. I'm from West Monroe, Louisiana. And I went to school here. I went to college here. About 23 years ago, I moved about 30 miles up the road to a lake. But for the most part, West Monroe is my hometown.
I love that. I am very similar in the fact that I have always lived in this area outside of Philadelphia, and same with my parents and grandparents all went to the same school as me. So I get that. So tell me a little bit about you as a kid. Were you someone that was always into fashion and design, or did that come later in life? Like, what was your childhood like there?
Well, I'll tell you, that's really what started this. I grew up, my grandmother was a wonderful seamstress, and she would make all of my doll dresses, and my dolls and myself, we had matching dresses. And I love that. And she had the old Singer sewing machine with a foot pedal. And I just remember sitting there in the summers when I was out of school, spending it with her and watching her sew, all of my dresses. But fast forward, I decided when I finished high school, I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to
Oh,
take care of people, and I did that. I went on to college and became a registered nurse, and I worked for a little over 25 years here
wow.
in my hometown. And after I became an empty nester, I've always loved fashion, and I just
Mhm.
decided, you know what, I loved the good memories with my grandmother, and and also I was gifted all of her old patterns and her
Oh,
sewing
wow.
kit and all of those things that she used, and her little cushion that she had all her little
Mhm.
needles in. I mean, I have all of that, and I thought, I really, I don't want to go back into nursing. This is right after COVID. And I thought,
Mhm.
I think I want to maybe do something in fashion.
Yep.
So I took some of her old patterns and just kind of modernized them a little bit
Mhm.
and changed some things up, and that just kind of started the ball rolling. This started out as a little hobby because I was an empty nester, and now it is just a full-fledged, full-time business.
I love that. I think grandparents have such a special place in our lives growing up. And it sounds like, your grandmother certainly influenced you. So, and how amazing these patterns, though, that you were able to get from her. So, did you always kind of keep up with sewing then? I know, watching her as a little kid, but then while you were a nurse, like on the side for fun, like, did you ever pull out a sewing machine, or was that something you kind of had to relearn later then again?
Well, I've always had, even as a little girl, I think for Christmas every year, I always requested, the new little sewing machine for little girls, and that just kind of grew. Um, I wasn't nearly as good as my grandmother. I mean, I can do a hem, I can, sew on, I can certainly do buttons and things like that. A funny story, when I was in high school, we had to take home ec, and a
Mhm.
part of that was you had to sew an outfit and you were graded on for the week. For the 6 weeks, you
Yeah.
got one grade at 6 weeks based on what you made. And so this was in the 80s, I'm dating myself. So I decided I would do a corduroy jumpsuit. So, and I loved it so much. Even when we had recess, another friend of mine, we would run in and we'd spend recess on that sewing machine. This is in high school, trying to get these outfits ready. So I ended up making my little corduroy jumpsuit with a little matching top underneath. And then when it came time to wear it to school, we had to wear it to school for the grade.
Okay.
And I had one, and I had one leg was 2 inches shorter than the other on my on my jumpsuit. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? So I wore boots and I tucked my jumpsuit in, in the boots. So nobody, I ended up getting an A in the class, but it was just so funny. But I had so much fun that junior year of high school making that jumpsuit. And so when I decided to retire from nursing, I thought, I want to go back to back to patterns and
Mhm.
fabrics and things like that. I just didn't think I had quite the talent to sew them. But anyway, that was my funny story about my
I love
my
that.
corduroy
Oh my
jumpsuit
gosh.
that my mother still has. So it's funny.
Yep. No, that's amazing. So then tell me a little bit about once you have this idea that you want to start creating fashions from, some of the patterns and modernizing some of the patterns. What was sort of the next step to going from idea to business? Was it building a website? Was it, finding it someone that can manufacture and make these? Like, what did that process look like for you?
Well, when I started this, it was 2022, around the spring of 2022, when I decided I'm really going to do this. I'm going forward with it. I literally just took a deep dive into the World Wide Web and trying to find manufacturers and helping me with pattern makers, tech packs, and things like that. And I was fortunate enough to come across, I had several really good options and narrowed that down to one. And they
Mhm.
kind of held my hand as far as getting, we got to start with a tech pack, Kim. We've got to get a
Mhm.
pattern. We've
Mhm.
got to move on after the tech pack. Then you've got to source out, you've got to find your fabric. What kind of fabrics are you looking for? So I went with a company in the first 2 years that kind of held my hand and just kind of taught me, how to source all of these things
Mhm.
and introduced me to some factories. I
Mhm.
started out all everything was in the USA, and so kind of picking out the fabrics there in Los Angeles and getting everything, and then they kind of took it from there. Once I gave them the sketches from these old patterns that I wanted to change, they took it
Mhm.
to the pattern maker, made all the size changes and different things like that,
Uh-huh.
and then um, walked me through picking out the fabric. And then it just kind of snowballed from there as the next steps. And then now I'm not with them anymore. I've
Mhm.
kind of learned to source different with different contractors to do different things.
Mhm.
um, so now I have
Definitely.
somebody that does, my patterns, and I have somebody that helps me find my fabric now. And then I have someone that sews the sample. Then I have someone that takes it to a manufacturer and has them made. And
Wow.
I'm a small batch. I only do 30 to 40 of each dress.
Mhm.
And I kind of like that because I know
Yeah.
here in the South, we have a saying, I just don't want to see myself coming, meaning, see someone else, in the same outfit you're in. So
Mhm.
with it being, 30 to 40 of each dress, hopefully that will alleviate that problem.
Definitely. And talk a little bit about some of the designs because I love, like, for example, your large collar that you have on this dress that you're wearing right now. Some of those details, did you get those from your grandmother essentially, or is this something like your spin on it?
I did. My grandmother used to always tell me, she would say, Kim, a collar, it just really, depending on the collar, it can really flatter the face. And
Mm.
so I've always thought, and when I would look in magazines or see models or see some of my mom's friends and their collar flipped up, they just look so chic. And I mean,
Mhm.
it just, to me, it just frames the face. And so I'm really in the collar is a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And I've just always loved, I mean, even in high school, I think I always had my collar flipped up, and it was
Yep.
always a big collar.
Uh-huh.
And so I love that. And so that's kind of where the collar story comes from. But in most of my dresses, they all have some type of, there's a little stiff, so you can flip them up, or you can lay them
Mhm.
down.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like that's so preppy too. I grew up, with polo shirts, and back then you would pop your collar. So very preppy.
Right, right, right. So, yeah, so I love a good collar, and then I love, most of my dresses have pearl buttons because
Mhm.
pearls, it's a big thing, down here, where I'm from, everybody
Mhm.
has on pearls, with everything. I mean, we go to the ballpark to a baseball game, pearls, and so I wanted to make sure all the buttons and everything, pearls
Mhm.
and things like that.
A special attention to detail. So then once you have your products, how did you, get them out to the world? Did you get a website developed, social media, selling at wholesale trade shows? Like what was the process to getting it out and marketing it?
Wow, that is a great question. That has
Mhm.
been a learning curve. I have learned, I tried, some of the big markets, Dallas
Mhm.
market, Atlanta market, and they're fabulous. Those are fabulous places. But, I just didn't have I learned I didn't have quite enough inventory, to be
Mhm.
there just yet.
Mhm.
But I've hooked up with, different like the supper club and with you,
Yep.
getting me into, like into knowing some editors of some
Yep.
magazines, like, some of the Southern Lady and things like that, Victoria. And just, it's really just been trying to get me in front of my audience, but the markets weren't I wasn't quite ready for the markets when I went,
Mhm.
but the good thing about all that was I made wonderful contacts. And
Yeah.
they were like, "Kim, you may not be ready for Dallas markets. You might not quite be ready for Atlanta markets yet, but let me tell you where to start." And so they
Mm.
would kind of lead me down another road to get me maybe into a boutique, or
Yep.
get me into somewhere else that paid off. And so I'm still learning about,
Yeah.
how to find my people,
Mhm.
but it is, I made wonderful contacts going to market to kind of further that.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was just talking with someone else on the podcast a few episodes ago, and same thing. They went to a market, spent all this money, and she was like, "It was crickets. We didn't have that many people there." But she made one really good contact that got her on Anthropology's website, and so I think a lot of times people don't realize how hard it is doing the markets, and it might be a bad location that you're in, or just like a weird day, but it's worth it if you can make that one connection that helps you get to the next step.
Right. Well, I didn't, and I was the same thing, crickets. I mean, it
Mhm.
was just very not much, but
Mhm.
I met so many wonderful women, and I say I didn't do well. The second year that I tried the Atlanta market the second
Mhm.
time, I ended up picking
That's
up
good.
13 boutiques
Yeah.
that were very interested, and I've made, we've built this relationship. And even though
Mhm.
they didn't, market wasn't great, I'm now able to be in those boutiques, just
Mhm.
meeting them at market.
Mm.
Um,
Yep.
and plus, I'm just so, small batch. So and a lot of boutiques like that,
Yeah.
I found, some of their clients love to, know that there's not a lot of dresses, that particular dress.
Yeah, no, certainly. Now let's talk a little bit about your fabrics. I know you have so many great toiles and great fabric that travels well. Can you talk about the importance or like how you pick a fabric or a pattern when it comes to your line?
Yes, well, if I could do everything, if I could afford to, I would do everything in 100% silk. I
Mm,
mean, I just love all of that, but I love the jacquards. I love
mm,
all of the, the very, lively the fabric has got to be not only feel good, I
mm,
love the bright, very bright, happy colors. I do have, I think, one dress, I believe and I love black dresses and neutral colors, but most of my line is the very bright, bright colors. But I'm really, really into the jacquard fabric. I
mhm.
think that is so beautiful with a silk lining. I think
Yes.
that just screams elegance.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where I'm going right now, especially for the holidays coming up. Have some beautiful jacquard fabric. But I look for that, and I look for a I love the silk lining,
Mhm.
and just something that's comfortable and that just flows pretty as you walk. I love the
Yes.
way, the skirt or the bottom of the dress just kind of flows with the different fabrics. But I I do have some of a polyester, spandex, nylon fabrics. It's more for a
Mhm.
casual wear, and those I'm getting very good response on those. Matter of fact, I have one on right now because of
Mhm.
the softness,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of leaning toward that too right now. But my I call my dressy dresses. I'm still on that jacquard, but as far as some of my casual dresses right now, I'm loving that polyester spandex nylon
Mhm.
blend. It is
Mhm.
so soft and it doesn't wrinkle and it travels well.
Yeah.
And now that I'm traveling so much, I've really learned to appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of traveling then, I know you're doing some traveling for photo shoots and stuff with the supper club, but also trunk shows and getting out there at different events, right? And that kind of has been helping spread the word as well.
It sure has. I'm headed to Lexington, Kentucky next week. Now, that's a supper club event.
Mhm.
But while I'm there, I love to stop in several boutiques that I met at Market, that I met at Dallas and Atlanta
Yeah.
Market. And I stop in. I feel like I've built a relationship with them. So I
Mhm.
go and I see those, and I have pop ups.
Mhm.
And then I'll be on to Charleston, with the Hoffman Media, the Gracious Living,
Yeah.
and I have a little market there, and then I'll be doing a pop up that you have graciously helped me
Yeah.
set up.
Yep, at Bow and Row.
Bow and Row. I
Yep.
know I'm so excited to meet them. I've been following them on Instagram, and I love everything they have. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to meet them. But yeah, it's a lot of traveling. It's a lot of loading up my car. I'm very petite. I'm 5 foot tall, but I drive a very, very big car because I'm so used to loading up, and all of my friends laugh at me like, "That car is huge." I'm like, "I know," or "My SUV is huge," but it's just loaded with dresses because I am on the road so much. But
Yep.
I'm getting pretty good at shipping my dresses to
Mhm.
an event and either driving or flying. And then I've even DoorDash, or not DoorDash, I'm so new, Instacarted
Mhm.
uh, clothing racks,
Yeah.
mannequins, from different stores nearby to the event. And at the time it was like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm doing. But now I look back and it's funny. I mean, the things that Instacart and stuff everywhere to
Yep.
get to the event.
I love it. What would you say your favorite part about having this business is? And then what's the hardest or your least favorite part?
Okay, my favorite part has been literally the wonderful women that I have met at all of these events,
Mhm.
and we all have like some of the same likes and dislikes in fashion, and I have loved meeting all of the wonderful women in this and at the
Mhm.
boutiques. And through supper club and the events that I've done with you, I have loved that, and I could sit here and look at fabrics. I mean, on my desk, and behind me, there's fabrics. I could play in fabrics
Yeah.
all day. I love feeling, touching, playing with fabrics. And that also back, my grandmother would give me all of the scraps, then I would go try to do something with my Barbies. So I love fabrics. That's that, and meeting all the wonderful ladies,
Mhm.
that share some of the same likes that I have. The hardest part has been the computer part because I'm old school. When I went to high school, we didn't have computers. Even in college and nursing school, you could go to a computer lab for 1 hour a day and sit on the screen was black with the green letters, and you could research things.
Yeah.
So the hardest part has been the computer, social
Mhm.
media, and like learning about LLCs and
Mhm.
taxes and
Yep.
things like that I've never had to worry about. It just
Yeah.
So taxes just kinda came out of my check as a nurse, and now I'm like, "Oh goodness, I've got to figure out, what do I owe? What Louisiana, we're parishes, what parish did I sell this in? So what's this tax?" And
Yep.
figuring all that out has been, I just wanna pull my hair out, but I'm learning, and I love to learn new things, so I'm
Mhm.
learning, but, ooh, the computer and all that business stuff, I've it's not been my favorite.
Yeah, no, I get that answer a lot though. I feel like a lot of us creatives, that's the hard part and the not fun part.
Right, right, right.
Now, in terms of inspiration, obviously your grandmother has inspired you tremendously, and I feel like the other women in your life and just where you grow up. But where else do you get inspiration for like a new silhouette or a new fabric or color?
Well, I tell you, I okay, I love old TV shows.
Hmm.
Love. Like, I know you're so much, younger than me, and I just like Leave It to Beaver,
Hmm.
like the Gene Cleaver era,
Yeah.
Happy Days, and Miss Howard on Happy Day. I watch those shows over and over. That is what I watch at night. I love
Oh.
old TV shows, and I will find June Cleaver will be vacuuming her den in a dress, and
Mhm.
I'm like, "I love that dress. Look at that collar. Look at the belt that she put with that I love that." So then I go try to figure out how I can recreate something similar, or on Happy Days, the same thing. I mean, I just love the old TV shows, and I believe
Mhm.
that's where I find. And I even have a lot of my mother's and my grandmother's old magazines,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
from the 50s and 60s, and I
Oh.
flip through those all the time, looking, for inspiration. So I love the 50s and 60s dress era,
Mhm.
and so I'm constantly looking at all the old magazines and TV shows for inspiration.
I love that. I love watching some of those old shows. Bewitched is one of my favorites. I love her
I love
style. It's
I do
so
too, I
chic.
love that one too. I do too. Love. Mm.
So, since this is the Preppy podcast, I always ask everyone, what does preppy mean to you? So, how would you describe preppy?
To me, preppy is classic.
Mm.
And, I grew up, when I think of preppy, I think of my senior year in high school when Izod came out. And we wanted Izod shoes, Izod shirt. I just think clean, classic, never goes out of style.
Mhm.
Never goes out of style. It's not
Mhm.
trendy, it's classic. And and also when I think of preppy, I think of fun, happy colors. I
Yes.
just think, I think the pretty greens, the pinks and greens together.
Mhm.
I love preppy, and of course, I also think of the flipped up collar. I love, when I think of that, I think, when we the few Izod shirts I could afford in high school. I mean, that collar was up, and and I just thought, oh, I am something else. So anyway, so yeah, when I think of preppy, I think of everything and fun,
Mhm.
fun.
Mhm.
And,
Yep. No, that's such a good answer. Who would be your dream customer? Like, if you could have your clothes on anyone, who would it be? And maybe it is like, one of those old Hollywood stars who's no longer with us, but that would have been like your dream, like such an icon. But who would you say?
well, I would well my when from the old TV shows,
Mhm.
I would say Barbara Billingsley, who was June Cleaver on on Leave It to Beaver.
Live Beaver.
But
Mhm.
now, oh my goodness, would it be a dream if I could get Kate Middleton or Princess Catherine or Princess Kate? I can't keep up with all the titles. I would love that. Would be, oh my goodness, that would be my dream customer, to
Mhm.
have her to wear, one of my dresses. So
For sure. I could see her in your collared, like the longer gown style with the button up. That would be so beautiful on her, right?
right. I have a dress called the Gloria that's named after my mother, and every time I see that dress, I'm like, "Ah, Princess Catherine would be, or she would just be so beautiful in this
Mhm.
dress." Well,
Mhm.
she'd be beautiful in anything, but I just like, oh, that dress just to me, it reminds me of her.
Yeah, 1,000%. Now, What would you say is a resource that has helped you in terms of business that you can share with people, whether it's, a newsletter, a great book, or a great piece of advice? Like, what's something you could share with listeners?
As far as inspiration,
Or
through this
like
process.
to help you with business, something that's, helped you, like a newsletter, a book, a tip or a piece of advice, or, maybe it's the supper club, joining something like that, or, a program you're a part of.
Well, I was gonna mention the supper club.
Yeah.
The supper club is, it's a group of, women and their men that are entrepreneurs starting this business, and we get together and meet, at different, we call them the soirees, because you know all about it.
Yeah.
And I do love how, they're like, well, these are my challenges right now, and I don't really know what to do. What do you think? How would you
Mhm.
handle this? And so when we
Mhm.
get together, we all kind of network and kind of figure out,
Mhm.
what our obstacles are, and maybe if someone else has had that obstacle, how did they overcome it? And plus, ideas, new fresh ideas on different things. I was with Lydia, who is over the supper club this past weekend in Texas, and she just came up at this idea of maybe some different things I could do
Mhm.
revolving around like tea parties. And I thought, well,
Mhm.
my dresses really are, I never thought about that,
Mhm.
like hosting a tea party, and such. And so it just kind of gives me ideas, gives me inspiration, because we're all out there with our own little niche, just trying to, figure out. And other people maybe have already walked it and have some ideas.
Mhm.
And of course, Patricia, you've been a wealth of
Oh,
knowledge
you're so
on a
sweet.
lot. So, how to do different things and get,
Mhm.
some different avenues that I could try in this business that I never would have thought of.
But how exciting! I mean, to be living this dream and making beautiful dresses that you get to put out in the world and share with everyone, right?
Right. I mean, if I could just play in fabric and just make dresses every day, oh, this is a dream. I just wish I didn't have to worry about those taxes and all, and all that business stuff. Yeah.
Definitely. It sounds like really the supper club is such a great resource, but just beyond that, maybe if people, don't have that in their budget or whatever it may be, I think connecting with people is really the bottom line. Connecting with others because they can give you so much like information of what's worked for them, or maybe just like you were talking about with Lydia, like an outside perspective of something that you didn't think of, because sometimes we're so in our own business and we can't see like the bird's eye view of it sometimes to see these different ideas that other people might naturally see.
Exactly, and that's where I love where you and Lydia both come into play, like, "Well, why don't you think about this? Well, what if you
Mhm.
think about that?" I'm like, "I never thought about that. Never
Mhm.
thought about it. I'm so
Yeah.
busy over here trying to figure out the computer. I don't have, or whatever." And I'm like, "But that's a great idea." And
Yeah.
so that's wonderful. I mean, it has been wonderful.
Mhm. Now, what's next? Any sneak peeks? I obviously I've seen some sneak peeks working with you. I know you have this great dress coming out with a bedazzled neckline, but anything that you can share with listeners, whether it's events or pop-ups or new designs or new collections?
Well, at the advice of many, many of my friends and families, I am coming out with, I call it an athleisure wear line.
Oh.
But it is going to be, I've got to have that collar. I mean, if we're going to, whatever we're doing, that collar is going to be able to flip up or not.
Yeah.
And so I do have, I guess, an athletic line coming
Mhm.
out. But I've kind of made the athletic line where you can dress it up or dress it
Mhm.
down. And I'm anxious for that. My samples are arriving next week. And then,
Ooh.
of course, we'll have to tweak sizes and tweak
Mhm.
things. But I am so excited about it because, there's a lot of moms out there that are just busy, busy, busy.
Mhm.
But they're running kids, errands, school. I mean, I remember those days. But, I just think a cute athleisure line, put that on, and then you can run, have brunch with your friends. You can go and then pick car pickup, all those
Mhm.
things. I just think it'll be very versatile. So I'm so excited about it,
Yeah.
and hopefully it'll be coming out after we tweak it. Hopefully the end of November. In some fun patterns.
Oh my gosh, so exciting. So, a final question is, where can people find you? Let them know your website URL, your social media handle, and if there's a discount code or anything you want to share, let them know.
Yes. So I have a website and it's kimlolley.com.
Mhm.
And I am on Instagram and it's Kim Lolley Designs. And if anyone's listening to this podcast and wants to go over and check out my website, if you sign up with your email, then you'll get 15% off. And it's
Mhm.
kimlolley.com. And you can do /Preppy and they will get 15% off an
Oh,
order from the website. So, and then
yay.
of course, I'm on Facebook too under the Kim Lolly Designs.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that discount and for chatting with me today, and my listeners so they could learn all about you and your business.
Well, thank you, Patricia. I appreciate you so much for having me on here today.
Thank you so much for listening to the Preppy Podcast. I hope this put a little prep in your step for the day. Please subscribe, rate, and review on wherever you listen to your podcast, and follow along with @the Preppy Podcast on social media.